Greetings, loyal listeners. You are now listening to an encore presentation of a B30 mini talk session. So please stand by as the previously recorded podcast will begin shortly. Thank you once again for choosing B30 for your listening pleasure. A loyal listener emailed me the other day. He goes by the name of Mr. Freeman. He wanted to ask me something that has been on his or her mind for a while now. And he or she said, are Christians more likely to be blessed than non-Christians? My initial gut reaction is, well, yeah, of course, Christians are more blessed. I mean, I think that's pretty much the hook or sell of Christianity or religion in general. I think that's how things work, right? Like, people pledge allegiance to some sort of religious affiliation because it offers them something. If you're down with Buddhism, I mean, you're supposed to get like enlightenment or nirvana out of it. And if you're into Taoism, I don't know, you're supposed to get from it like feeling zen or something. I don't know. I'm actually quite ignorant about other religions. Now, I'm not trying to dehumanize and talk down on religions in general. I'm just saying the concept of religion, and Christianity included, it follows a particular framework or paradigm where basically if you believe in X, then you will get, and in return you'll get Y and Z kind of formula. Let's say Jane Doe believes in religion, blah blah blah, and what she gets out of that religion may include perhaps a sense of purpose, a sense of meaning in life. Maybe when she believes in religion, blah blah blah, she gets a sense of belonging or gets to connect with others on an intimate level. Or maybe it's an emotional thing where, you know, when you believe in a religion, you get feelings of peace, comfort, and joy, and all that warm, fuzzy stuff. And in this case for Christianity, when you commit in return, or what it has to offer is eternal life and that B word, blessing. So, are Christians indeed more blessed than non-Christians? I don't know, it's just common sense to me that I never really thought about it. I just thought popular belief is Christians are indeed more blessed than non-believers. Because if that wasn't the case, then why should people believe in Christianity then? Why would they believe in it if it has nothing to offer? They would most likely take their business elsewhere, so to speak, where another philosophy or religion substantially improves their quality of life. But then I let the listener's question sink in some more, and I thought about it a couple more days, and I thought there must be something more to this answer I came up with. I think that if that statement is indeed true, that God plays favorites with Christians more than non-believers, then I can see why non-believers might become offended by that statement. And I was just speculating that I guess that's why communist regimes really hate religion or Christianity, because the premise of Christianity is that, oh, they're more blessed than non-believers. And I guess when communism or communist regimes hear that, it just pisses them off. That one person is more blessed than another is just unjust, and it creates inequality. It must drive like Marxist thinkers like nuts. And thus, these communist countries make it illegal, and they would persecute those who try to spread religion. It makes sense, because you want equal distribution of wealth and goods, but it all gets messy, and then we'll all get into the nasty byproducts of communism like corruption and human rights abuses, to name a few. But I'm not here to analyze communism and its ideology. I'm just saying I can see why people get pissed off if you keep gloating that Christians are more blessed than non-Christians. I guess that's why communists are so passionate about persecuting and banning religion, because in theory, in terms of ideology, it does kind of create inequality. But my point is this topic that Mr. Freeman brought up is pretty important, because depending on what you believe in, if Christians are indeed more blessed, kind of creates bitterness and resentment, tension, hatred, and in some cases, on a global scale, violence too. Lots of violence. Now, for those who just want me to shut up, just give a simple yes or no answer to the original question, I can't, because there needs to be an operational definition. You like that fancy textbook term, huh? You need a operational definition in order to go further in this discussion. In other words, we need to collectively agree on what we all think is considered a blessing, because it can like include a whole bunch of stuff and a whole range of things. For instance, blessing could be solely financial in terms of material wealth. Some spoiled brat who's born into a family whose parents are like real estate moguls or film producers or whatever. But blessing can also be physical, like natural born talent. So you're really good at playing an instrument, or you have this unrivaled athleticism in a particular sport
sport you play that some people just don't have. Or that natural born talent could be like science, like you're really good at, I don't know, computer coding or inventing things. The physical blessing, I don't know, it can even range to like looks and appearances, like born with awesome facial features or a slim, shapely body figure. So you got financial, you got all different ranges of physical blessing. And also there's like familial, like family blessing. Having awesome parents or awesome extended family. So you have like this optimal nurturing environment, you know, hugs and kisses all around. Some Christians probably have all three kinds of blessings. Some don't. Some maybe only have one of the three or two of the three. And similarly enough, some non-believers have all three kinds of blessings too. You know, financial, physical, familial. But some non-believers may have only one or two of the three. So at the end of the day, it's a matter of perspective, and it's all relative on who's more blessed and are Christians more likely blessed. It ultimately depends on what type of blessing holds higher importance to you. I can't speak for others, but perhaps some people may desire material blessing over like being blessed with good looks or something. Or maybe some people treasure that desired intimate nurturing family blessing more than like being rich. So this is going to be the short answer to this whole session of who's more blessed, Christians or non-Christians. Two very unsatisfactory words. It depends. Because I can make arguments for both sides. So I have days where I go, man, sometimes God blesses the crap out of certain Christians more than non-Christians. In fact, I think sometimes God blesses certain Christians more than other Christians too. A person that comes to mind is a lead pastor at a mega church in Houston, Texas, who owns a mansion, beautiful wife and children, private jet, #1 bookseller in the US, gets 6 digits income-wise from the church he serves at. And I'm like, yeah, I guess I can see why people say Christians in some cases are more blessed than non-believers. But then I also have days where I ask myself, like, why are non-believers more blessed than honest, hardworking Christian folk like me, who are doing their best to being faithful witnesses, but we're far from living comfortably in life? And I usually get that thought when I turn on the TV and catch a glimpse of, I don't know, like E.T. or TMZ and see how celebrities or rich Hollywood people are like buying up yachts and islands. And then at the same time, you see like hardworking Christian, very kind people operating soup kitchens or being a part of social welfare projects and can barely keep them running. And then you got these people like spending like 5 digits on champagne at a club or something. And you're like, wow, non-Christians are pretty blessed. And what is this overwhelming sense of anger and resentment I'm feeling right now? So you can pretty much give yourself a migraine trying to figure out why the world's so unjust and unfair. Or you can argue with your friends or whatever till the cows come home. Either way, that bitterness is just going to eat you up inside, make you miserable, and most likely would take years off your life expectancy. That's why I decided to go outside the box. Instead of thinking purely in terms of pragmatics, I decided to go supernatural and think religiously. So why don't I reframe my understanding of blessing and try to define blessing from a biblical perspective? I mean, what else have I got to lose? Because trying to make sense of the world sometimes through pragmatics and logic and reason and rationality just makes you miserable. So I decided to look further into the biblical definition of blessing. What I gathered from the Greek and the Hebrew is, as a verb, when you're blessing someone, you are calling down or summoning God's grace onto another person. So my understanding of grace is this unearned, undeserving favor or advantage or benefit that you receive, which you totally didn't work for. So you just get it. God just gives it to you, no strings attached. So that's the verb of blessing, is you are calling down God's grace and hopefully it goes upon another person. As a noun, blessing is, I understand it as prosperity, as a gift, a present. And when the person receives this prosperity, gift, or present called blessing, the usual result or the desired result is that person gets this ultimate feeling of well-being. And I think that's what is the essence of blessing, is whatever kind of undeserved gift you get, whether it be material, physical, financial, familial, the essence of it is you must receive or must get this warm feeling feeling of well-being, this ultimate well-being. This could be in the form of a resource or a certain ability that you possess. But it's also interesting how when I comb through the definitions or the description, there's no mention in the definition of blessing that says you're exempt from hardship and struggle. In fact, it seems the biblical understanding of blessing, it can occur in any kind of situation. Well, that's at least the inference I made when I read Matthew 5, verse 1 to 12, famously titled the Beatitudes. So it's basically a bunch of sayings that describe circumstances where people are indeed blessed. When you read through those 12 verses, it's just going to describe a bunch of circumstances that people go through, and that Jesus is assuring them that you're blessed, despite feeling the complete opposite when you're in those situations. It's kind of far-fetched, but hang in there. Just give it a shot. So basically, when Jesus was roaming the countryside in Galilee, talking to people, mingling, spreading the word, he went up a mountainside to avoid crowds, and then his disciples followed him after him, and then he just sat down and he just started preaching, and the disciples listened. And this became known as the Sermon on the Mount, a collection of sayings and teachings about how to make good moral decisions and how to display Christ-like behavior. When he was sitting down on a rock, this is how biblical blessing is understood from Christ's perspective. If you are starving for spiritual direction, hang in there. You will receive the kingdom of heaven. If you're mourning a death or you're experiencing a loss, you are blessed because you will be comforted. If you're kind of a behind-the-scenes kind of guy, you're overworked, you're underappreciated, and you're barely being compensated for your efforts, guess what? You're blessed, man. You'll inherit the earth. And if you're the type of person in life who has pure intentions, you're merciful to people, whenever you can, you try to keep the peace between others, trying to keep things civil, harmonious, and you deep down inside really want to pursue righteous living, but you get targeted and insulted for your efforts, well, guess what? You're blessed because you will be shown mercy, you will be filled or satisfied, and you will have a place with Christ in heaven, and place in terms of you will get to live in heaven, and there's even a promise that you will see God. So that's the Beatitudes in a nutshell, folks. It seems when hardship and struggle are around the corner, it's like an opportunity for blessing in a sense. Maybe it's not exactly the stuff you hear and you feel 100% better after hearing it, but it's a start. I mean, there's no guarantee in life things will get easier, but what have you got to lose trying this biblical outlook on life? What have you got to lose to embrace this new outlook that maybe life's hardship are an opportunity for future or delayed blessings? Now, as much as I hate to admit it, I gave this a shot. I tried thinking like how Jesus tried to frame blessing, and I did observe a common theme, and that is a majority of the blessings Jesus promises his believers in Matthew 5, verse 1 to 12, they only seem to kick in after you depart the earthly world. So my first thought is, okay, that sucks. I mean, watching others have an easier time in life than you do, that's kind of a bummer. But if you persevere and just hang on to how you reconceptualize prosperity and well-being, it does help you take a step back and look at the bigger picture. So let's put it this way. If life on earth is kind of like the waiting area outside like an airport gate terminal before you board your flight. So that little seated area outside the gate terminal, the waiting area, that's kind of like life on earth. It really doesn't mean much to have a good time there. I mean, that's not the place to have a good time. It's not the actual destination you're trying to reach. It's just the waiting area. That's kind of what life is on earth. So when you see people having a good time in life's waiting area, so to speak, then fine. I guess you just gotta let it go and say, fine, go ahead, have a good time. And just hold fast to that hope that my reward is, when I get off that plane and arrive at that paradise destination that Jesus paid for, so to speak, with his blood. So waiting area is earth. The plane is kind of like death, if I have to go along with this parallel or metaphor or analogy. And the vacation destination is kind of like heaven. People are having a good time in the waiting area, pre-drink, whatever way you want to conceptualize it, and so be it. Have a good time in the waiting area. I want to do my real partying at the destination of eternal life. So I guess another thing I want to clear up is if you decide to want to consider this Judeo-Christian belief system and you find the concept of grace and salvation kind of fascinating and you're like, okay, I want to try it, I'm going to commit to it, then guess what? You just qualified yourself for the most basic form of godly blessing, and that is, and here's the Sunday school pitch right here, the idea of Christ dying on the cross is a form of redemption for humanity, and because Christ did that, he made you eligible for eternal life, and you access this eligibility to eternal life simply by believing. That's it. You're eligible, you have access to blessing simply by believing. I think that's that's the essence of Christianity. No strings attached. You're eligible. You qualify. Just believe. And that's your invitation to eternal life. I guess in that sense, in that very simplistic understanding of Christianity, I think that alone supports the claim that maybe Christians are more blessed than non-Christians. But if you think that's BS, then I guess you can stick or go with that 2-word answer I gave like 10 minutes ago. It all depends. It's really subjective. But from a biblical understanding, I think believers are indeed blessed. So I'm going to stop here. So thanks for listening, loyal learners, and goodbye.